What's going on, everybody? It's Davey from the 80s, and you are now entering the Cinema Chop Shop. So park your ass right there. And while you're there, don't forget to hit the like, the share, the subscribe button. Also, if you check the link below, you see a Patreon account. If you click it, you can become a member. All you got to do is try recommend movies, music, trailers for me to react to. So click the link. Now, with that being said, I have some special guests in the building. We have Del Boy from Movie Mash, and we have James from a channel that's under construction and will eventually show up one day. Uh, so I brought you guys to the table because I have a very interesting topic that I want to discuss.
Ooh.
Every time a remake is announced or a title of anything is announced that somewhat has some sort of creative background, you always get backlash. And the first thing that you hear from the people is, why are they touching this? This film doesn't need a remake. I've seen it with The Exorcist. I've seen it with especially with The Crow. And I want to have this discussion with you guys. Is there such thing as a untouchable film? Who wants to go first?
I'll let you go, James, for a change.
Thanks. I think there are certain films out there that, they don't need to be remade, but at the same time, I know that younger audiences won't watch a film that's like 40 odd years old. The first thing that came to my mind there is The Godfather. Fantastic film. It's basically gold, and it's like, it can draw.
Guess who hasn't seen it?
It's so good, and at the same time, I can't imagine them remaking the film.
No,
but I guarantee it's on some studios list.
No, you know what? You just brought up a really good point. Sorry to interrupt if I did.
That's gone.
You're right. There's something you're right about younger audiences that I never really considered yet. They won't watch. Like I've got a 20-year-old son. He wouldn't watch The Godfather. Even I know that he watch it, he'd go, "That was good." Do you know what I mean? You know, Kings of Comedy with Robert De Niro.
Yeah, great movie.
So my son's favorite film of all time is the recent Joker movie. You know, with Joaquin Phoenix. Now you can see Scorsese there, and you can see Robert De Niro, and you see the King of Comedy. You see
Taxi Driver.
Yeah. Well, it's basically there's a lot of Kings of Comedy there, and I said to my son, "You need to go and watch that." It's like I think it was the early 80s or late 70s when that was made.
Young De Niro, so
he wasn't into. It was way too old for him. Do you know what I mean? To go and watch that, and I'm like, so yeah, you're right. When it comes to, I never really considered, but there's a lot of films today that kids, even including Back to the Future, by the way, that kids are too old and too silly.
That's getting a remake now, Back to the Future.
Sorry?
Back to the Future's getting a remake now.
Apparently not. Robert Zemeckis said he owns the rights, and while he's alive, that's not going to happen.
I thought they were going to make a sequel. I didn't think they were going to make a remake.
I don't know, but Robert Zemeckis said, "Look, I'm putting the rumors to bed. As long as I'm alive, there will not be a remake of this film." You know?
Yeah, no, I thought it was going to be a sequel.
I've not.
I thought it was always planned. I thought it was always for a plan to make a part 4 and not to like continue it. I mean, and not to like restart it.
I haven't heard that.
Every time I heard anything about Back to the Future possibly coming back, it was always in the realm of like Back to the Future 4.
All right. Okay. Well, I will say this: if they ever decide to do a Back to the Future, we'll say Back to the Future, that film would be ripped to shreds today, because today's audience, when we watch stuff, especially younger kids and stuff, everything is torn apart. Anything, like even Jason and Michael Myers, and they'll all be, but Back to the Future could be shredded in pieces.
But you want to know what's worse though? The worst thing about it is the reason why I feel like it'll get ripped to shreds is because, one, we have this mentality now of like, don't fuck with the classics. You know what I'm saying? Don't fuck with the originals, as Sidney Prescott would say. And because of this, like, people will automatically shit on something before they even watch it. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's so beloved. It's so like, it holds dear to people's hearts that they're just like, don't touch it. And another thing too, is we've also come to the stage especially in the media business, where people are actively looking for quote unquote woke elements in films, and they find them unjustly, and they label it as woke. And then when you're watching the movie, you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what is this elements that you speak of? The word gets thrown around so flagrantly now that it's just being labeled with everything. You have a fucking I don't know if Marty McFly had a daughter in Back to the Future 4 and she became the lead. Oh, look at this wokeness. You see this shit? You see, this is what I'm talking about. It
That's what
wouldn't
I'm
matter.
saying. With Aliens, if that was made today, would that be considered woke? Exactly, say that exact film never brought out in '86, it's brought out tomorrow. Would that be considered woke? And I would say 100%.
Oh yeah, people would be saying, why do we
It
have
would
a
be
strong
considered woke.
female character
Yeah,
like this?
exactly.
Yeah.
And back in the day, we just took her for being a strong female who kicked ass and all that. But today, it would have been because of wokeness. That was the only reason she'd be in. So yeah. But when I say a film being ripped to shreds, I meant by the plot holes in Back to the Future. Now we overlooked though loads of plot holes back in the 80s because that's what we did. Look at Madman Mars and all that shit we talked about. It would be ripped to shreds today.
I was reading this article the other day. It was about like films that have aged very poorly, and one of them was a Sleepaway Camp. Now I love Sleepaway Camp. It was one of the first big franchises I got into. The twist ending. What you haven't seen it?
I'll watch it tonight, actually.
Yeah,
Sleepaway Camp is really good.
it.
The twist is dope.
Tonight, yeah.
But the problem there is that, yeah, if that was made today, could you imagine the backlash?
Oh yeah, definitely, because of the cook. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to ruin it for Derek.
Yeah. No, I don't want to.
You know who I'm talking about? The cook, that cook scene. That would definitely get taken out of context. The ending scene would get taken out of context.
Oh,
I can see it. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
The problem there is that there are some films that are like classics that are just like, even if you look at Casablanca. I mean, I think they did remake Casablanca, but nobody talks about that.
Did they remake that? Yeah,
I
really?
think so
I feel like they did.
Yeah,
I mean, I think they're remaking Dirty Dancing at the moment.
Yeah? I think they did,
but
it's actually like being filmed as we speak, sort of thing, right now. They made a sequel to there a few years ago to Dirty Dancing, but they're making it's a few. I don't know who it is, but as I said, like. That's already, oh no, Patrick Swayze died. I get it. But again, there's a load of audience that will not watch the 1987 version, including myself. I only watched it for the first time recently. But again, like, yeah, do you know what? It's one of those, it's a real good subject, a real good topic to think about, really, because there's so many films like The Godfather. It feels like you cannot remake it. You should not be done because there's 50 years there recently. But
I do want to say this because
I would go and see it if they did.
This actually took the idea of a remake and then flipped it on its head. One of my favorite scary films of all time is The Thing. I love The Thing. It's a great film, great tension. Everything is just chef's kiss, perfect. But when it was announced there'd be the remake in 2011, I was, of course, sickened by this idea. But then I heard that it wasn't a remake; it was a prequel,
and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I did too.
Pretty good. Yeah,
but
they actually the continuity kind of worked. You know,
they were careful about that. Now the problem was the CGI, of course, but people walked into that.
There is one thing, and I need to ask you. You're both big Thing fans, aren't you? I assume. Yeah, me too. Right at the end of the Thing, 1980. Was McCready and what's the other guy's name? Giles, yeah. Was any of them two? It was any of those two? Were they both human, or were any of them two the Thing? What would you say?
Giles was the Thing.
You would say.
There's a few theories about it, but one thing that really
the earring.
Not even the earring thing. Well, the earring thing I never considered, but if you look at Giles as he's coming out, McCready, you can see McCready's breath. You can't see Child's breath because he's not breathing.
Right, I never thought of that.
Yeah,
I just know that in the earring, he had an earring at the end.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and in the Thing, remember she noticed that he didn't have the earring. Yeah. But anyway, I know we're going subject. But you can't remake the Thing. But if they did, and all the people that scream about you can't do a remake, they all will run and see it anyway, just so they can hate it, I suppose. But you know.
Let me chime in real quick. I feel like there is a very thin line of movies that can't be remade. Like I feel like The Godfather is put in, even though I haven't watched the films, I know what it is. I know what it means to cinema. I know what the trilogy means to cinema. I have not watched the movies, but I know what it means. And I know that if you went and you have 3 movies deep and everybody feels like that's a very tight knit trilogy, I say leave it alone. I say leave it alone. But then the thing is, if you are so afraid to make remakes, then you wouldn't have a thing, because the thing itself, the 80s version,
Yeah, it's
is
a
a remake.
remake.
Is a remake.
Also, you would never have Cape Fear, which is also an amazing remake. You wouldn't
Yeah,
have
that's true.
Scarface, which is also an amazing
Yeah,
remake. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Okay, mate.
if you're afraid to remake a movie because you're afraid of the lashback, then it's like you're kind of putting yourself in this weird little bubble. So to me, I feel like there isn't really, I feel like no movie's untouchable, but I do feel like some movies should be left alone. And it's a
Yeah.
very, very small, minuscule
That's
amount of movies.
how-
Well,
exactly
I
how
want to chime in here, and I'm sorry, I feel like I'm talking an awful lot, but
Wow.
if oh, yeah.
I'm
Thanks.
joking. I'm joking.
No, but if you look at the likes of Psycho, like the '90s remake of Psycho, if we look at that as an example of kids won't watch things that are 30, 40 years old, the
And it was black
'90s
and white.
Psycho, yeah, the '90s Psycho is a shot-for-shot
Remake.
remake of the original, and it gets a lot of flack for that. But if you look at it
I
through
actually
the point
enjoyed
of
it.
view, I enjoyed it.
I didn't.
I thought it was different, but it was. If you look at it from the point of view that nobody or no younger group's going to go watch a film that's 40 years old,
And
making
in
a
black
shot
and
for
white.
shot remake, same story, same idea, different performances, sure, not maybe some not as good as others, but
Yeah.
you still have the same film and it's still rather interesting. It's still really good.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
not as
I
good as
think
the
more
original.
people would have watched. All right, if you had both today, you're right. More people would watch the '98 version with Vince Vaughn, the color version,
Yeah.
over a 19. They would, and let's face it, it's not because we're all experts in nostalgia and all that, but the black and white Anthony Perkins version is far superior.
Oh,
Yeah.
hell yeah. Definitely.
But nobody's going to watch that. And I agree with you, as you just said, Davey, that not it's it's a lot of films can't, nothing can be untouchable, but I do think some things should be. But I even think The Godfather probably could be remade for today's audience. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think it should, but I think, because again, like my son would never watch that, but I know he'd like it if he watched it. You know,
I think if you remade a movie like that, you would have to change it somewhat, right?
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah.
example, like let's say you remade The Godfather, but you made it follow a different crime organization. Let's say like the Yakuzas, or I don't know, the Triads, or like I don't know, any sort of
oh
any
right, I get what you
a
mean.
different crime organization. That way you tweak it, you add different elements to it, but the idea and the soul of the original movie is still there.
Yeah,
You get
but
what
you
I'm
probably
saying?
couldn't
Like
call it The Godfather.
exactly. So like that's what I'm saying. Like I don't think like a movie. I don't think there's no such thing. Like I really feel like there's no such thing as an untouchable movie. But I do feel like there are certain
We
movies
want
that
there to
should.
be.
Huh?
Basically, we want there to be untouchable movies. We
Yeah.
want there to be, but there isn't.
But here's the
Basically,
truth, and then nobody's going to want to admit this. The bubble of untouchable films is a lot smaller than people make them out to be. People make it like when you listen to the shit that people say that's an untouchable movie, I'm like, get the fuck out of here, bro. Like somebody can definitely like example, Exorcist, right? I love The Exorcist, but it's not a fucking untouchable movie. If they decided to remake it, I wouldn't give a shit. I'll watch it. You want to
I
know why?
feel you're
Because
right.
we had Exorcist 2, The Heretic, we had Exorcist 3, you had Exorcist the beginning, and then you had a TV show. Something that's
TV show was
untouchable.
fucking great.
I've
I
heard.
watched one episode of that, and then when I heard it was cancelled, I stopped because I
It
didn't want to get
did 2
into it.
seasons. It asked some really
It's
cool,
with Gina
interesting
Davis.
questions.
It was with
But-
Gina Davis was in it. I'm sure it's that one, right?
Yeah, she was.
Yeah. I it was the first episode. I was like, all right, and then I realized it's over. It was cancelled. I'm like, I can't get into it now. But yeah,
But exactly. But what I'm trying to say is like, you can't tell me this movie's untouchable and you have all of these freaking continuation elements. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, if you've already tried to move along, you've already tried to kind of basically continue the story. So there's no, at this point, you've given up the right to be untouchable. You know what I mean?
One of my favorite films of all time is Rear Window. Hitchcock's Jimmy Stewart.
Oh, Hitchcock.
Yeah, what was it? You have all these amazing performances, this great story, how it's shot, everything is just perfection. I found out they had a remake in the 90s or early 2000s with Christopher Reeve
That's
playing
right.
your man.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I loved Christopher Reeve as Superman. I'm not a big Superman guy, but I will not watch that because I am so like
In
I just
love
have
with the
so much
original.
love for the Jimmy Stewart version that I don't want to see it being sullied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I get what you mean. Bastardized. Whatever is it?
yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
And I
Yeah,
bastardized.
think
as I
that's
say,
a fear. That's a fear a lot of people have, that something you loved, something you enjoyed, or something that is so positively nostalgic for you is being remade and being tinkered by big studios or even by directors that might not know, like, or have even seen the original, that it might not be as good or as an enjoyable, or something about it's been changed that you really identified with. That
yeah.
fear of this beautiful story being changed
Mm.
can cause people to overreact, or
Yeah, yeah,
even
no, and
outright
I'm
hate
one of
something.
those. I've on occasion I've lost my head over certain things. I mean, when the Evil Dead was being remade, I was like, oh, fucking do that, do a sequel,
Great
don't do it. And I
example.
watched it. It's pretty hardcore. It's pretty good. Watched it again the other night. It's pretty hardcore. They didn't fuck around on that film,
Great
but they
Oh
example.
yeah,
knew what they were doing and they were being clever. They actually did it with care and love. And a lot of people, if they can do remakes with that kind of care and love and attention instead of just thinking about the quick buck, then yeah, I'm off. Now, let me ask you, I'm just going to throw out some random films here, yeah, that people would say that could be untouched, right? Do you reckon Jaws, the original, could be remade?
It's basically already has been. We have Meg.
mhm,
We have all kinds of other damn movies that
No,
are
but the
very
actual,
similar to it.
that story
Yes.
remade,
Yeah,
you
definitely.
think so? All right, Forrest
definitely.
Gump.
Yeah. No,
Nah, I think Forrest
no.
Gump is I think Forrest
It's
Gump is one of the movies like that's yeah, no.
Yeah, I
yeah.
know, but
It's also the fact that it would cause a lot more drama among people
oh yeah,
if,
fuck yeah.
yeah,
Jaws
considering
is
some of the stuff
50
that
Because
he
years
had done.
old now.
Forrest Gump, whether you want to admit it or not, is an era piece. And I don't think people would appreciate that now. You would have to probably try to modernize it.
Yeah,
And
Maybe
then that goes against a lot of it.
like making
yeah,
him go against like maybe making him join the Afghan war. I don't know. And then
I know. Or if you
instead of
kept it the
Olga,
same, it doesn't matter. It's all down to the acting, who's in it, what it was. It's just, I mean, it could be done,
it could of course
and it can't be
anything can be
untouched. But
remade. But will it
But
be
what's
whether
another
it
one?
should
appreciated?
be,
So I just
but
throw a
should
couple
it be
more.
remade?
What about Shawshank Redemption? Can't be
No,
remade.
Nah, no,
No, no.
definitely
All
no.
not.
right. So I'm just saying is that there is films out there that shouldn't be, but that don't mean they can't be. Do you know?
But
And
have you noticed something
I
though? I don't know if you noticed this trend, but the ones that we said no to, they're one and done films, mostly.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Then the one that we said yes to, it was the one that
Apart from
spawned three
Jaws, yeah,
sequels.
and Jaws was technically a kind of made for one film, really.
Now check this out. This is
And
what Hollywood has
realistically,
figured out.
Forrest Gump did have a sequel. Forrest Gump did have a sequel. The
What
book,
sequel?
the book
Oh, is
of
it?
Forrest Gump had a
Oh,
sequel.
I
is it
never knew
good?
that.
Well, the fact that you haven't heard of it should tell you. I mean,
I didn't know.
Fair enough.
there's a lot
I never
there's
knew
a
that. I'm
lot
gonna
of
look into
things in
that.
it. More Gump does more of this, like, he influences people. I think there's a point where he buys what was it? There was supposed to be something about the OJ trial in it as well.
What the fuck?
I
It sounds
know,
mental. All right,
All
I'm
right,
gonna look into that afterwards. All
that's
right.
but
crazy. But
yeah.
check this out though. This is what I noticed. Studios are so afraid to touch the untouchable, right? Quote unquote. And then it's funny because the movies that they're referring to aren't really untouchable in my opinion, but that's just me. They're so afraid to touch the untouchable that they found a loophole, and that loophole is making reboot sequels.
Mm.
So instead of like, okay,
Yeah,
they're afraid that I'm going to butcher the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or butcher The Exorcist or butcher Candyman or any of these other titles, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a reboot sequel. And
yeah.
this is
Retcon
the
the
way
rest of everything else.
Mm.
exactly. So this is
Yeah,
the
yeah,
way
yeah.
studios have found
Halloween,
loopholes.
Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah.
Yeah, because nobody's gonna give a shit if you reboot Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Not that many people like it. Not that many people are gonna give a shit if you reboot Candyman 2, because even though I liked Candyman 2, it's kind of forgotten within the horror community. Not the horror community doesn't like really like go gaga over it, you know. There's a lot, and then this is typical in the horror community. So that's what I noticed. That thing I noticed too. But then in light of Top Gun Maverick, that movie showed that you can take a movie that you thought was a one and done movie and you can make a sequel years down the line and it still fucking holds up.
Oh yeah, but
I agree.
like, I think
I often
I
say
think
that. Why you make a sequel instead of a reboot? Why can't we make a sequel to the film? Like The Godfather's 50 years old. We could do another Godfather with just the children of what was left over. You could do that. You could think of it. You don't need to remake it. You could do a sequel. But
Exactly.
no, it's got to be redone. You know, like they could do a continuation of Jaws. They don't have to do. No, has to be a reboot. But you're right. I noticed that a lot recently. We're forgetting all these other films happened and we're going to stick this right in. And I always put down Halloween 1 and 2 very tightly together in general. But they've like, no, fuck that. We're putting Halloween 18 in after part 1, you know. But yeah, but you know what? It's working. I'm more up for that than the actual remake of an original film. At least they're taking the original film and adding to it, if you get what I mean. And I'm happy with that. I'm okay with that ish.
Yeah.
like as
I
long
like
as it's
that
got
they
something to
Superman
say, I
3 and
don't think.
4.
As long as it's
Sorry.
got something to say, I don't think any film can be flawed. Like if you're adding on to say a classic film, and it makes sense, then yeah, go on ahead. Dude, as long as it has something to say, films have to be able to say some kind of message. Like,
Yes, it has to be. Yeah, it has to have something to say. Yeah, and if it doesn't, then it's bullshit. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I know that you. I don't know. He doesn't like the reboot
oh,
of Rob Zombie's Halloween. I do. I liked it. Did you like it?
I liked parts of it. His thing, I didn't hate it as much as other people did, and being distracted by the dog. But, what was it? The thing Zombie did right is he made Michael physically intimidating
Yeah,
and brutal.
That's true.
and they
But
give him a reason to be fucked up in the
well,
head as well.
you mentioned this the other time in the other discussion. It took an awful long time for Michael to finally kind of spread his wings in Rob Zombie's remake, because we had to learn, oh, he's from this really bad family. He only loves his mother. He's being bullied. Now watch as Michael, who is just a kid, murders another kid who's bullying him. Now that is significantly less creepy. Oh my god! Look at the big guy. That is significantly less creepy than the wide-eyed, doe-like little boy from the original.
Yeah.
Just going in and killing people. You know, you see the creepy kid do it. Yeah, it's kind of not as shocking. You see this little adorable kid do it, who looks innocent as all damn, and yeah, that's a bit more disturbing.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because Rob Zombie's Halloween is rated a lot higher than among the horror community. That movie's rated a lot fucking higher than it needs to be. It's
I
not
really
a bad movie. It's not a bad movie, but it's not as great as everybody pans it out to be.
No,
That
I
sequel
just
was
like
shit
what
too.
they've done with it.
Yeah, the sequel
You know,
was
when you're
bad.
making a remake, he didn't do a shot for shot. What he done was he threw his own version of why Michael was like he was.
Yeah.
The only problem with that is a lot of people like the fact that Michael was just evil for the sake of it. You know, he was just pure evil, born evil. But anyway, I mean, we're going off the subject a little bit, but I agree.
Let me hit you guys with one last question before we wrap this up. Now, all of us are horror people. We love horror, right? So I'm gonna give you this one. I'm gonna say something very bold right now, and you guys can agree or disagree. I feel like there's absolutely no horror movie that I could think of off the top of my head that's untouchable.
The Omen.
No, that's touchable, bro. And then I think they're making a TV show.
They've already done it. They did it.
Oh yeah, they made that shit.
If we're going for, are we going for the right reasons or the wrong reasons? Because if it's
Any
for
reason,
doesn't matter. Is there
Rosemary's
any
Baby?
Which one?
Rosemary's Baby.
Fuck, they remade that though.
Did they?
Yeah, they remade that.
Oh shit!
And I
They
think
did
it could be remade. To be honest with you, I know you probably might not like that, but I do. I can see that being maybe,
I can see it be a remake, and then they actually showing the damn baby.
even if they made it modern. It doesn't matter. Or 60s. It doesn't. I think it could be. Doesn't mean it should be. Just think it
I
could
mean,
be. I think you're right when it comes to horror.
yeah.
Top of my head, The Exorcist. I agree. It could be remade. I mean, we still always have the original. People forget
I
that
mean,
we still have the
Thank
original.
you,
Invisible
thank you.
Man.
Say that loud one more time. This is what people don't understand.
We always have the original. You know,
People
yeah.
don't understand that shit. Like, I remember I had this conversation with somebody, and they were talking about Child's Play, right? And I like the Child's Play remake for other reasons because if you're gonna,
Justin.
yeah, if you're gonna remake a fucking movie, then I'd rather you give it an original idea and try to put your original spin on it than just giving me a shot for shot remake, right? Like example, Nightmare on Elm Street. When they remade Nightmare on Elm Street and they made Freddy seem like he was innocent, I like that idea because I'm like,
Yeah,
yo,
that was a good
dude,
idea.
If
yeah,
they
dude. I
went
was
with
like,
that,
dude is a falsely accused child molester, and he's coming back for revenge against the families that murdered him falsely. It makes absolute sense when you think about it. But then for them to
no,
bitch out and then revert back, I'm like, well, yeah, he
yeah,
was a piece of shit. I
Yeah.
was just like, yo, you just took away everything that you had going for this film.
it
You were
was.
kind of
Oh my
making it
god!
your own.
Phenomenal. That would have been an amazing
In it
twist.
though, and when I remember when I was watching it, I was like, I was enjoying it anyway, you know.
Yeah,
And I was thinking, and her, what's he named? Jackie.
Jackie
Jackie
Earle.
Early.
Yeah, he was. I thought, you know what? Has hat off to him. He's doing a good job. And when they come up, the fact that he might be innocent, I was like, what have you done? Oh my god, this is such a good
Exactly.
idea. Oh my god, gives him nothing but pure reason. You've done a twist, and then they fucked that shit up. The other
Yeah,
thing
Well,
I
like,
will
that's the
say
thing.
about the film
It would
is
also
that
show like how mob mentality really screwed up the town because they
oh
all
yeah,
decided.
well, we go with Halloween Kills, which I liked.
I like
I
it.
was going to say was, but the one thing I'll say about I, if they went with that story, A Nightmare on Elm Street, if they went with that, it would have been great. The one thing I will say that I was a little bit disappointed with was the kills. One thing about Nightmare on Elm Street, every kill, whether it was good or bad, was original and fucking thought out of. The kills weren't that great, but in general, I enjoyed it, and I just think, yeah, that was one example of how they fucked
Hmm.
it up in a sense, but I still liked it. You know,
yeah. And let's
I
stop acting
didn't.
like Jackie Early was a fucking horrible Freddy because he wasn't.
he was
The,
good.
No.
the
He was
makeup,
a great
the
cast.
makeup looked bad. I completely admit that. But Jackie Early is not a bad fucking Freddy.
I
So
thought
let's
the
get that
makeup
out of the
was
way.
all right.
He's an amazing actor, bro. And you guys fucking are really like, I hate this idea that here's another thing in the horror community. I'm sorry we're doing this shit, but whatever, we just gonna talk about it
I will
briefly.
go for it.
I hate how we act like certain roles are untouchable. People get old and people fucking die. Robert Englund cannot play Freddy for the rest of his life. Doug Bradley cannot play Pinhead for the rest of his life. These things are not going to happen. As
Yeah.
long as somebody can embody the character and really appreciate it for who it is, then whatever, let it be. You can't just keep saying like, yo, if Tony Todd ain't Candyman, I ain't trying to see that shit. You know, like you can't. I get it. These characters are iconic. They made the role who it is, but at the same time, you just gonna have to live with it, bro. Like you have to give other people a chance.
And there is
Yeah.
good actors out there. There
I
is
mean,
good actors out there that could
look
do
at
it.
look at Bill Skarsgård. I'm going to use him for an example because when it first was announced, people were really nervous because
He's supposed
it's
to
not
play
just
Eric Draven, by the way.
yeah, I've heard that, but it's not
Yeah.
just he's not just taking a role on from a famous King novel. He's taking a role that was embodied by Tim motherfucking Curry, and Tim Curry has always got that charisma and that menace behind his voice and his acting. So there was that fear. Could Bill take on
He's
that?
even scary signing pictures. I've seen a picture of him doing it.
But
But
yeah,
Like
but no, you're right. Tim Curry, he was just frightening in general without the CGI. Yeah,
oh yeah,
but I will Skarsgård, hats off to him. He's a young fella as well compared to the
yeah.
the older fella that Tim Curry was. But he didn't. I mean, there was CGI, but without just the makeup and the way he would. You know what? Hats off to him and Jackie Earl. What's
Jackie Early.
yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
let's go. Let's go. We're gonna wrap this up, and then we're gonna give our final thoughts. Now, I'm gonna just go around. I'm gonna start at Del Boy, go to James, and then I'll finish it off. Final thoughts on the idea of are movies untouchable? Are there any movies that shouldn't be remade, et cetera, et cetera? Just kind of give your final thoughts on this topic that we
Right,
touched on
like
today.
you said, I think nothing's untouchable, but some stuff should be. We just don't want it. That's it. That's the way it is. Like Godfather and shit. You know.
Right. James.
I I think that there's a fine line. Like everything probably will be remade because let's face it, there's not a lot of fresh ideas out there, but there should be films that are just off limits. Like Godfather has been mentioned. You know, you have some amazing films that were made, even those that just aren't on the radar or wouldn't make a lot of money, shouldn't be remade for the sake of, oh, it might garner this audience. Look at Tim Curry. Look at Rocky Horror Picture Show. Should that be remade? No, because that was a storm in a bottle situation. It got hugely popular because of how
Was it
drastically
was
different it
that
was.
was that the theatre first, or did it become in the theatre afterwards, like a show?
I
Which
think
was
it
first?
was no, I
I'm not
think
even
it
sure.
was
It
theater
don't matter.
first.
But
I
I
might be
just always
wrong on
curious
that,
about
I think it
but
might have been a show afterwards. I'm not sure.
name.
that.
But
Okay.
regardless, it you have that kind of film that was, like I said, a storm in a bottle. It just became huge. I can't see you remaking that and it having the same effect. Like
Maybe not, but
certain
I still think
films,
it could be done.
yeah, it can be done. It just shouldn't be done.
Yeah, I mean, but then here's the thing. I get it. Even I look, bro, I'm gonna tell you, I feel like Rocky Horror can be touched. The reason why is because every year you have it's like every year they have Broadway performances of this with different actors and actresses playing the different roles, and they're fucking loved. They're beloved by the people, dude. I don't think Rocky Horror is as condensed as you think. It's not restricted to the cast. It's a whole mood, it's a whole vibe. And I think as long as they get that vibe and that mood right, I think people will love it.
Yeah, sorry, I probably could have used a much better example, but it was the first thing that came to mind.
Apparently,
But
I haven't seen West Side Story, but Steven Spielberg just remade it there Christmas.
Yeah.
And according to what I've heard, that everyone was screaming about West Side. Now I haven't seen it anyway, but apparently Steven Spielberg's version is actually better. I mean, let's face it, Steven Spielberg is the man. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
But apparently, this is actually better.
I know a couple
So
of people that didn't like it.
I don't know. I just heard. I haven't seen any of them, but as I say, like but the fact that anyone would even consider putting that up, that it might even be better, that says a lot. But you know what? Because until we see the remake, we don't know. We just hate it before it comes out, and that's a bit unfair sometimes.
I think it's become a taboo word nowadays. Remake is just like it's
It's a
raw.
red flag.
Reboot.
But yeah, I think there's should be a certain amount of films that just should not be remade,
It's a
mostly
thin line.
because just small little bubble of films.
My final thoughts are exactly what we've been saying. Like, I think that there's a very small selection of films that should be remade. I think I think that there isn't too many films that are untouchable, but I do understand everybody's gripes with the fact that can Hollywood make something original? And I'm 100% on board with that. You know, there's tons of freaking movies that haven't been remade, or that they have really low budgets and they have a lot of like potential, but yet nobody's touching these films. But then yet they want to go to these movies with big names and with the big audiences, and they want to remake them. I understand all of these gripes, but at the end of the day, there are very few movies that can't that are untouchable. Like I said, Godfather is one of them. Back to the Future is one of them. But those are movies that you can do two things. One, you can make a sequel to. I can definitely see a sequel being made down the year. And then the good thing about that is if people don't like the original, they could just, if they don't like the sequel, they could just ignore it. But then this is the same logic that can also be applied to remakes. If you don't like the remake, you own the Blu-ray, you own the 4K, just pop that bitch in and watch it. It's not like it's going to erase the original. This is where people get this idea like it's going to, like they're trying to tarnish or erase the memory of the original film. It's not. It's still going to be there. You own it. Like, you know, like stop making it seem like they're trying to erase this.
Just pretend it never happened.
Yeah, just pretend it never happened. Exactly. But yeah, that's essentially my thoughts. Like on this.
Also, the remakes can get a younger audience who enjoyed it to actually go and watch the older ones too.
Just definitely. It's like people that listen to a rap song that has a sample in it, and they hear the sample, and then they find out what the sample is, and they go back and listen to the original, and then they end up loving the original.
Vanilla Ice.
Vanilla Ice, right? Dum, 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 dum. All right, so This was an awesome panel, awesome discussion. I feel like we covered a lot of bases. Thank you guys for coming. And don't forget to go to Del Boy's channel, Movie Mash.
Movie Mash.
Subscribe to a
Yes.
channel. It will be in the description. Click the link. Go there. Subscribe. Shout out to James and his upcoming channel when he decides to make it in his his career as a gigolo. But I hope you guys are having a great day. I hope you guys enjoyed this discussion. And until next time, you are now exiting the Cinema Chop Shop. Hope you guys are having a magnificent day. And adios.
Bye now.